Welcome back to the Legacy Academy podcast, and we're here today with a very special guest on our show, Emily Rutherford, founder and co-owner of New Zealand's largest water park. Emily is a forward-thinking entrepreneur who grew up in Queenstown and went to university in Dunedin with a Bachelor of Commerce, and then went on to do a Master's in Business. She then moved to London with the Kiwi OE and lots of travel and started an events entertainment company, which is really taking off. And then COVID hit, which I think has probably disrupted a lot of people, and all the events were cancelled. And Emily then came back to New Zealand end of March 2020 and started planning her water park business, which launched December 2020 and now is in preparation, expanding for the upcoming summer with even bigger and greater success. And excited to have you on the podcast, Emily. Thanks very much for your time.
Well, thanks for having me.
Very cool, very cool. Well, hey, been an amazing story. I've watched you on social media, and we're talking a little bit about social media here before we started recording here, but and how key that has been for you in promoting. But really excited to chat today about kind of your journey and kind of where this ideas come from, and maybe some of the challenges that have been starting out in your own business and maybe pursuing a dream and those kind of things. I think will resonate a lot with some of our audience who are listening today, and lots of different backgrounds and families and individuals and young people, maybe people even in their 40s and 50s who have an idea and a dream that they haven't started because maybe they've had a lot of doubt and disbelief on whether they actually can do it. But why don't you kick off and tell us a little bit about your background, Emily, and kind of where do you come from? And, obviously went to London and came back. And where did this idea of a water park come from?
Yeah. So, I grew up in Queenstown and, one of the few people born in Queenstown, grew up in Queenstown. And I did spend a lot of time in my summers swimming in the lake. And so I've always loved, and I also did a lot of swimming competitions and training and things when I was growing up as well. So I was really into like swimming and things like this. And then I also did a lot of dance, and I always loved like dance and gymnastics and things like this. So I always loved water and, trampolines and all that kind of thing. So it's not actually as far left field as a lot of people seem to think for me to start the water park. And then, I went to uni in Dunedin, which was great. I actually ran my own fitness classes at uni in Dunedin. So that was my first time actually running my own business. So I ran these massive Zumba classes when Zumba first came out, and we had events with up to 500 people that went. So that was kind of my first experience with running events and organizing a lot of people. And I also had no money at uni when I started this. So I utilized like social media, YouTube and Facebook at the time were the main platforms, and to promote the classes. So I think a lot of my social media skills have come from actually necessity of actually not having much money in different stages, which at uni, and like learning the best ways to get the most traction on social media. And then I went to London. I traveled a lot around Europe. And then I also set up an events company and ran a professional cheerleading team. That was the cheerleading team for a lot of big sports teams. We also did a lot of big individual events like Dubai Rugby Sevens and a lot of TV shows and things. So that was an amazing experience. We had a huge amount organized for 2020, and then everything was obviously cancelled because of COVID. And for years, I'd actually seen these massive inflatable water parks when I went to Dubai, and I'd seen them in Canada, and I'd seen them in lots of my travels. And I thought, hey, this would be like amazing for, there's so many lakes around the Queenstown Central Otago area. So it's like, this would be like so good. People love, activities and outdoor things, but there's nothing really like that. So I was like, this, I know my hometown. I know my home area. This is going to work. And then, so then I basically, when I came home, I had never been able to do the water park idea because I had so many events going on in London. Yep. And then when that all finished, I was like, okay, I'll come home for a few weeks. And then it just kind of, obviously COVID happened, and then I've been here ever since. And I just thought, okay, this is the time we're going to do this water park. And then, so I had that idea, and then initially we had a lot of pushback. It was very difficult to find a location that we would be able to get consent to do it. And then we eventually found the location in Central Otago on Lake Dunstan, which we got consent for, but it was very difficult to get consent.
What was that process like? And, just obviously applications and talking to people, and takes a bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard. It's difficult to find a good location because you need a certain water depth, but you also need a lot of like car parking and public toilets, and you need a lot of infrastructure and also enough depth in the water, because a lot of beaches and things are really shallow water. And for the big inflatables, you need 4 meters at least of depth.
Okay.
So it's actually very different. And also you need good water quality. Which is more of a problem. We've been looking for locations in the North Island. Most places have bad water quality.
Wow.
Like in terms of the swimming. So yeah, there's a lot of factors you have to come together to find a good location for an inflatable water park. It's not as easy as you would think. Because even if you find a location that's got good water quality and good parking and public toilets and so on and so forth, it's probably got shallow water, or, there's just so many factors. So we found that, and then we decided we launched it. We launched a month later than we planned because we had shipping delays, which I think a lot of people have at the moment. And then a lot of people sort of did say I was a bit insane to launch it this last summer because obviously COVID, and I think a lot of businesses for so long had been around the Central Otago, Queenstown area, had been very focused on the international market. And so people were like, why would you launch something when there's no internationals? But we never launched it for internationals. It really was launched for New Zealanders, and all of the planning and everything we went into it was to fit the New Zealand market. So if internationals had have come, it would have been a bonus. It wouldn't have, we weren't in any way reliant on the international market or even expecting the international market. So that was probably, a big difference there. And then also I think people, thinking lockdowns and other things, like it's a crazy time to launch it. And I think people just didn't really understand the concept. So definitely before we launched, a lot of people thought it was a stupid idea. So that actually led me not to employing as many staff as we actually needed. So we were busier, like we were selling out the first few weeks, just completely sold out. So we didn't actually have enough staff. So we were having to like desperately hire anyone we could. But a lot of that was, I think, because so many people had doubted that I kind of was like, okay, well, I don't want to employ a whole lot of people and then no one come and then have to fire people, So that was definitely, it was more popular than we could have ever imagined, to the point where there were days at the start of January where we were having to turn a lot of people away because we were sold out. And I think also a lot of people were shocked about that, because all that was on the news was, every kind of activity is because of no international tourists is got no customers. So a lot of people turn up not thinking they had to book, and then we're sold out, and people were shocked to kind of see that, I think.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but I think because we were purely aiming at the New Zealand market, and even really at the South Island New Zealand market.
Yes.
I hadn't even calculated in the idea of internationals. So yeah, everything we did was around that, and having grown up in Queenstown and then going to uni in Dunedin, I really understand kind of the Otago, Southland, Central Otago people. And so I think that was, that is basically.
That's awesome. Oh, that's amazing. And so obviously, like the public response was fantastic once you got going, and like you say, people turned up expecting this to be able to rock up, but instead of booking. But there was a lot of doubters. A lot of people said it was a stupid idea. But you had this kind of creative kind of vision, and then they obviously had a little bit of impact on your confidence, I guess, a little bit. All the doubters saying stupid idea, it's not going to work. Why would you do that international market? I mean, what was that kind of emotional kind of roller coaster like for you? I mean, you obviously had this vision and dream, but a lot of people not really believing it's going to work, and obviously had an impact on that. And what's that like when you're starting out with so many people saying it's not going to be a good idea?
I think the thing with me is because I have a lot of self-belief. I did definitely doubt it. We definitely didn't employ enough people at the start and things like this because we doubted how many people would come because of the amount of people that thought it wasn't going to work. But I think that I really do know my home area, and I do understand. I think I've got a kind of a good kind of, I would say, like, I'm street smart. Like, I understand what the average person likes and what the average person wants and things like this. So I'm not like an academic or a bureaucrat. And I think that's probably where I kind of was like, why people keep saying this is not going to work? Like, I know this is going to work. Like, in my head, I was like, I know. I was like, without a doubt, I know this is going to work because I had spoken to, and I'd done a lot of research. I called up people that ran inflatable water parks all around the world. And I spent hours calling these people up because I had nothing to do over lockdown. Like, I had literally nothing to do, and they had nothing to do. So like, I just called them up and I did research and found out about their market, and I think that helped a lot as well, because from what they said and the people that came, I was like, well, there's a lot of people that fit that market that live in Otago, Southland, Canterbury. So those people like it. So I think we'll be okay. So yeah.
Wow. I mean, there's this saying that I heard, it talks about is don't expect people to understand your path if they don't have your vision. And then sometimes that is the case, right? When you've got this dream, you got this vision, you know what you're doing because you've done your research. You're, like you say, you've got that kind of that mentality for business and that creative flair, and obviously, evident in the way that you've done so many great things growing up or through your years before you started this. Really interesting story, because you didn't just come up with an idea all of a sudden and then decide I'm going to be a business owner. It was kind of that entrepreneurial kind of mindset really fostered. Even when you're studying, you obviously got your bachelor and your master's, and you're obviously very smart, but that book smart doesn't always translate into success in starting a business, right? And I mean, there are some things that you can share with our audience around, I guess, some key things to kind of be aware of and think about when you're going on a venture like this, when there are going to be doubters.
I mean, I think that like everything I've actually run as a business, it's things I enjoy. So I think that that's probably where with my first business, which was a fitness company, I love fitness. I'm such a fitness person. And I love dance. I love fitness. So running my fitness classes, it was something I enjoyed. And then it just turned into a business. So, and then with my company in London, like, again, like, I love dancing, I love entertainment, I love big sports events, I love all that stuff. So it was making what I loved, into a business. And then the same with the water park. I love water, I love trampolines, I love massive slides, like, I love all that stuff. So, I think that's kind of, all of my businesses have come from things I genuinely like myself, and then making what I genuinely like myself into a business. So that's probably, and I think that's where some of my kind of, when people tell me things are a bad idea, I'm like, but well, I'll like it, so like, whatever anyone else, but I know I'm going to like it. So
absolutely. And like you say, you know your area, right? You haven't just decided to move down to Queenstown. You grew up there, right? You know the landscape, and you've done your due diligence and know the people. And I think that's sometimes the biggest thing, right? Or one of the biggest factors of, you got to know your audience when you're starting something, reaching people. And you've obviously just had ability to do that fantastically. So that's really cool. And you obviously had to do lots of resource consents from a practical point of view. And I saw some videos on social media around just the cranes and diggers in there, getting in the mooring blocks or whatever you need to kind of build the park. And then something like 10,000 meters of inflatable equipment I heard yet to ship from overseas. And it's a lot of moving parts, right? And kind of a lot of different challenges to pull everything together.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the biggest change for me. So I'd never dealt with like the construction industry or cranes or diggers and all of those kind of, you know, like that kind of stuff. That's something I had zero experience in. We were super lucky. I think with Cromwell, there's a lot of like, you know, a lot of men that we ended up meeting, like the guy, like Nick, who ran the crane company, and then Steve and Rob, who did like a lot of diving work and other things. And then we also had a guy called Nigel who lived across the street from where we were, that just like, he was again in like another like kind of, we met all these kind of old school New Zealand guys that just like know how to build things and fix things and do things and practical. And I think they were a huge help, like, because I honestly didn't have a clue. And they, you know, that really old school kind of New Zealand guy, practical knowledge was really, really good. Because
cool.
I mean, we didn't know how to set it up. And like, you know, we were initially going to fly these people over from Canada who had set up a similar park on an alpine lake to do it for us, set it up for us. And then obviously with the borders, we couldn't do that. So we really relied on these men that we met that were, you know, just from like literally like, one of them I met because he lived across the road from where we were putting the park. So I went around like the houses of the people that lived near where we were putting the park, just to check there was going to be no one to oppose us. And so that's how I just kind of like walked around, knocked on doors, like talking to people. And then so I met, and then he kind of introduced me to other people that could do this. And then I met another guy that he did the cranes, and he introduced me to a guy that did the diggers and all that kind of stuff. So there was definitely a little like Kiwi ingenuity and like, you know, all that kind of stuff. And like, you can't beat that kind of like old school, like do it yourself kind of like Kiwi guy kind of thing. So they definitely like helped a lot, because honestly I had no idea, like, and even with just like all kinds of things, like you know, they all just kind of like problem solve things. And like one day we had a safe, and the staff accidentally locked the safe and like locked the key in the safe with all of their like keys and all of the stuff for everything. And and Nigel literally came across the road like within like 2 minutes, grabbed the safe, went back home, welded the safe open. Like, you know, we had a lot of like great people that helped us out along the way. Because in terms of all that stuff, in terms of construction and all of that kind of stuff, I have no experience. So we were so lucky, and that was really lucky.
That's so awesome. And isn't that fantastic? Like, that's such a great example of what New Zealanders are like. You know, I think a lot of Kiwis are wanting to help. They've got great skills, and that, like you say, that kind of old school kind of, you know, I guess our parents' generation and people wanting to be part of growth and success. And New Zealanders are like that, right? We want to help, and we're friendly. And you know, I love my Australian friends, but I lived in Australia for a couple of years, and it's a little bit different. You know, sometimes it's population in bigger cities, and even what I've found, Emily, with my family living in different cities and living kind of more, you know, around these urban communities that are really sprawling with property and everything. It's become less community focused, and people are busy with their lives and got lots going on, and real relationships aren't continuing to be fostered and built in their communities. And I think there's a real gap for that sometimes. So it's so cool to hear, you know, that the success of the Kiwi Water Park obviously has been driven. It takes a leader like yourself. It takes someone to kind of step out and pursue a dream and take action, all those things that are important, and have that creative kind of vision for what you're creating. But there's a big team involved as well, right? There's lots of different individuals who have been part of the success that you've created. And it's very much relational based, right? Even though you're building a business and there's practical elements, there's sales and tickets, and you've got to cover your costs and all that. But really, when it comes down to successful business, you know, what I see a lot of, and we see a lot of, is it comes down to relationships and you know, building good trust with people and connecting. Like you say, you've gone and just had conversations with people. I'm putting a water park here. I want to tell you about my story and my vision and what I want to do and bring this to the community. And obviously people responded really well to that.
Yeah, I definitely like, you know, I think like that small town, South Island, like, you know, kind of vibe was great. Like I honestly, like one day we needed to get the trees like moved. There was like a whole lot of weed trees things at the shore, and we need to get them moved so that the crane could come in and like you know, put the mooring blocks in.
Yep.
And I like literally went into this, like, you know, I was driving on the road and I saw there was like a yard with a whole lot of diggers. I was like, okay, I need to go in there because I need to get the digger to like move all this stuff. And I just walked in there and I said to this guy, I was like, oh, we're going to be starting this water park down at the lake at Lowburn. We need to get these like weeds and stuff moved from the front because the crane needs to be able to get in to put the mooring blocks in. He was like, okay, cool. Yeah, leave it with me. We didn't even start a contract. Like, he didn't even like do anything. And then I literally went to the park the next morning and there was a guy there with a digger and he'd done it. Like, he'd just done it. Like, and so like, it was, you know, it's that kind of small town vibe where like people just kind of get things done. And like, he kind of like, that was something I had no experience in, but I'm glad we did it in Cromwell, and I'm glad we did it in like a small town with that kind of like just getting things done, like vibe, you know.
So cool. It's amazing. It's amazing how even just those contracts have developed, right? I mean, you have a conversation with someone and they go get it done. And years ago, right, an agreement just used to be verbal, and then there'd be a handshake, and then you sign a page. And now when you buy a house, when you buy a property, you've got to sign every single page, every single thing, every single adjustment. You know, there's just a real lack of I guess trust, but also follow through on people's words. But it's just so refreshing to hear your story and about the community in Cromwell. Now, I was born in the Manawatu, and I grew up with around farming communities and very similar. But as I got into university and went to the big cities, and just much less of that. And so resonate a lot with kind of what you're sharing. But it's so cool I guess for people to hear this and just be reminded that there's a lot of great Kiwis out there who are just ready to help, want to go have a conversation, step outside your comfort zone, and even people who might be listening who might not know their neighbors. Something that Kirsty and I have talked a lot about is just go say hi to your neighbors and introduce yourself and create that friendly community, because you never know when you might need some help. And most of the times people do want to help, but we think we're going to bother them, or we don't know them. But I think it's important for us to kind of keep this community feel to this amazing country we live in.
Oh yeah, like 100%. And like, no, I'm so glad we did it in Cromwell. I definitely like, it was, just a great community response. And like, with me, like I really good at social media. I'm really good at marketing. I'm really good at like having ideas, but in terms of like practical construction and stuff, I had no idea. Like, honestly, I went into this completely having no clue. And I remember my first meeting with a guy with Nick Dennis, who runs all the cranes and stuff. And he was like writing out this plan in front of me, and like we sat down for like 2 hours, like nutting out where we're going to put all the mooring blocks and how many mooring blocks we're going to need so it didn't blow away into the wind and all this. And I was just in there like, oh my God, I have no idea. Like, I was like, and like, I'm just so lucky that these guys, like the different people we work with, like took initiative, awesome. Because, and like did a really good job, because honestly, I had no idea. Like, and that's, I think that's one thing in business as well, is like some people, they like to think they're an expert in everything. I know I'm not. Like, I know there's many things I'm terrible at. So I'm good at finding people that know what they're doing in certain aspects.
Yes.
Like leaving them to it, because, there's certain things I have no idea about. And we had this other guy, Ben, who's from like Roxburgh, which is even like smaller of a town up the road. And he helped with like all of like actual logistical planning and helped put everything together with the cranes and everything like this. And it was great, because I had no idea. But I think that's, again, like, as I say, in business, you have to know what you know and what you don't know, and then be good at finding people that are good at doing what you have no idea about.
Awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah.
When you referred to social media and marketing, there is kind of a bit of your strength, and you were sharing a little bit earlier about how, when you start a business and you might have lots of costs up front, and traditionally people spend a lot of money on advertising, but advertising has changed a lot, right? Social media. And how important was that for you in marketing kind of the water park and starting out and, using the tools available for you to kind of get the word out there?
Yeah. I mean, we spent $0 on marketing. So all our marketing was me doing like things that I needed, like, you know, I thought were a good idea on social media. So I kind of went into it with, especially because when terms of getting brochures and all this kind of stuff, like when we didn't have any photos of what the park was going to be like. So we couldn't really have brochures. We couldn't go down any of the regular tracks. So we had to do just social media. And in a weird way now, I get packages and from people wanting us to pay for advertising space and magazines and stuff. And I'm like, oh, like how many people are going to see this? And they're like 3,000. And I'm like, you know, like we've got TikToks with over 4 million views. So like for me, I'm actually looking at all of these traditional marketing platforms and like just trying to justify why anyone would spend that money.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like when there's so much easier ways to do it. We've got all these platforms which you can literally use for free.
Yeah.
Like,
amazing.
So, you know, that's where I started. And I haven't even, as I say, I mean, I wouldn't mind having some billboards or something like, but apart from that, like, I just don't think we're ever really going to go down a lot of the traditional ways of doing things, because I just don't think that's how people consume media anymore. And even I see a lot of videos, social media marketing specialists make, and they're like, they get no views because they're overproduced, too long. And people, you know, I think you got to look at how people consume data now and consume media, and then make your media fit whatever people consume. Like a big one I say to people, never put all of the information in your video or in your post on social media.
Fascinating.
Ever.
Yeah.
Because how you get views, especially on things like TikTok, is by people commenting. So if loads of people comment on your TikTok, it goes onto more people's For You page, more people see it. If you've got all of the information about your product in your TikTok, well, no one's going to comment because there's no questions to ask.
Yes.
So it's going to go on no one's For You page.
Yes, interesting.
So a lot of people, when they're online advertising, give too much information. Way too much information. You have to give bare minimal information and just give a little bit of a slice of something.
Wow.
Because then people are going to be like, oh, what's that about? Where is that? Like the biggest thing people comment on all our TikToks is, where is this? I never put the location in the TikTok because everyone comments, oh my God, that looks amazing. Where is that? Where is that? Where is that? And then boom, you've got 500 comments of people saying, where is it? And it's on 10 to thousands of people more For You page.
Wow. That
a lot of people, a lot of other people and like social media marketing experts, they put every bit of information into a post. And then no one's going to view it. Like no one's going to comment, or like, you know, you just have to like entice someone with a bit of something and then they'll comment and ask.
Wow, social media marketing 101 here from Emily. That's fantastic. A lot of extra value here. That's fantastic, Emily. And LinkedIn, you were saying, has also been a good one for you.
Yeah, I mean, I literally post on everything. Anything that you can do for free, I'll do. Like any kind of advertising marketing you can do for free. So yeah, I post on LinkedIn a lot, and just throw stuff out there. And I think that's the other thing is you just sometimes, like some of my videos, even on TikTok and LinkedIn, that I literally put barely any time into editing and like kind of average, I just threw them out there and they've got loads of views. And other stuff I've put loads of time into editing, it's got like nothing. So you've just got to kind of like throw everything on every platform and just hope some things stick. You can't over like think it, because if you do, like you'll never post things, you know.
Analysis paralysis, and people don't end up taking any action, right? So that's awesome.
Yeah, you've just got to do things. And I think that was with the water park as well. Is like I literally was like, I'm doing this, and really I had no idea what I was doing. But as I say, we found a lot of great people along the way. We muddled our way through. It worked out. But if I had actually sat down for too long and thought about it, we would have never set up this business. Because, as I say, I had no construction experience. I had no experience with like any of what we were doing apart from marketing something and getting people to earn in. Like, I had no experience regarding the fundamentals of construction. There was a huge amount of, as I say, mooring blocks and chains and ropes, everything that had to go in, because we got up to 100-mile-per-hour winds down that lake. So things had to be chained down. And from a distance, like we were 100 meters, like the furthest point of the water park was over 100 meters from the shore. So there's a lot of like things you have to consider with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what an amazing success story, Kiwi entrepreneur success story. Really cool to hear, Emily. And look, a couple of, I guess, final questions for our audience. And was there anything you could do differently going back when you're starting? I mean, what was your biggest learning lesson through the last year putting this together? Probably learned a few.
Well, we would have probably hired more people at the start, but we weren't to know. Like, I don't even know if there's anything I would overly change. We would have been in a less windy location, but again, it's very difficult to find the location we're looking at moving into. It's less windy, but it's got less car parking, so we're going to have to provide courtesy shuttles.
Wouldn't change much, eh? Everything, I mean, obviously it is what it is, right? And you got to where you are, and that's cool.
Obviously, we're changing a lot this summer, but I mean, it's things like we're making the park bigger because we didn't have enough capacity for the amount of people who went on and things like this. But I think that's going to be more, we're going to need more staff, more lifeguards and things for a bigger park. So again, I think there's nothing I would overly change, because I think I learned along the way, and yeah, there's nothing I would overly change, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what would you say to someone who's got an idea or a dream and wants to start a business of their own, and maybe just struggling to kind of take that next step? As people listening on this podcast might be in that position. I think a lot of people have ideas, but they struggle to kind of take action on it, right, and manifest the actual doing of the work.
I would say just literally do it. Whatever it is, just do it. But also research. Like, I did a lot of research, and I also worked very hard. So like, I did not have a day off for 3 months over the summer. I worked every single day. I was sometimes working 18 hours a day. Like I would go for it, but go for it in the idea that you are gonna, like, if you're setting up something brand new, you are gonna have to work so hard. And I think also I did multiple people's jobs. So like, I was the HR person, I was the general manager, on-site manager, I was a health and safety person, I was doing all the social media marketing, I was answering customers' emails and queries. So I was like customer service. Like, I was so many roles in one person. So I would say that you're just going to have to work freakishly hard. Like, anybody that thinks starting a business is going to be easy, it's going to be 10 times harder than you think it's going to be. Every time I'm like, oh yeah, like when I set this up, I was like, oh yeah, it'll be easy. Like, whatever, chuck some things on the lake. It's so much harder than you think. So just be prepared to work hard. Excellent. And don't think you know everything. Like, that's my biggest thing as well. Like, I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. And a lot of people, I think, starting businesses think they know everything and want to micromanage everything. You can't do that. You have to find somebody that's good at things you're not good at that you need for your business, and then let them go. You can't, like, if you're starting a business, you can't micromanage everything.
Awesome.
You've got to let some things go. You've got to be like, some people are too focused on minute details, and you really have to let some things go. You have to be like, okay, I would like it like this, but I'm just going to let it go. So
good. Love it. That's fantastic. And what's the long-term dream? What's the long-term goals? Obviously, you've got another summer coming up. And what are some of your goals and vision for moving forward?
Well, we wanted to set up another water park this summer in the North Island, but we just couldn't, for this summer. We couldn't find a space a location that was easy enough. And to do, because as I say, there's so many factors with water quality. We found a lot of great locations that have water quality problems.
Yeah.
As a lot of places in North Island have a lot of water quality problems. So yeah, we've decided just to focus on doubling the size of our current park this summer.
Sure.
And then for 2022 to 2023 summer, we're going to have one in North Island. Yeah, I think this summer we're doubling the size of the current park. We're opening a month earlier. And so it's going to be a longer season and it's going to be bigger. And yeah, so, and we're also going to sell ice creams, and I'm looking at getting bespoke wetsuits made that we can sell, and swimsuits that we can sell that are going to have like little Kiwis on, like part of our brand. So I'm looking at like merchandise.
Excellent.
And obviously expansion, like so the park will be double the size, along with like ice creams and food and things people can buy. So, and then once we've really sorted that out, then we're hoping to emulate that somewhere in the North Island where we can actually find a spot that fits. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure I've seen comments on your social media and stuff, people saying, oh, when you bring one to Auckland or this place or Tauranga, or, so I'm sure someone will reach out at some point, and, it's all about who you know, sometimes, rather than what you know. So that's cool. And where can people find you, Emily? You've got a website and Instagram. Everything is at Kiwi Water Park. So every single one of our social media platforms is at Kiwi Water Park, and then Emily Rutherford on LinkedIn. Fantastic. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time today. And I know you're hustling to prepare for another great summer and doubling the size, like you say, the Kiwi Water Park. And I hope everyone enjoyed the podcast today. So thanks for listening. And please like, share, and comment, and tell your friends, all and family, all about the Kiwi Water Park in the South Island down there in Lake Dunstan. And this is the Legacy Academy podcast. I'm your host, Jono Rowe, and we'll see you next time.